Hey everybody, welcome back to Human Reaction. It's not just me and you this time. Today we have the whole crew together. It's so good to see you.
Actually, all four of us.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Bennett's back on the stream deck, which is dangerous.
It is. And if there was ever an episode for us all...
Come at me, bro.
If there ever was an episode for us all to be together, I think it's this one, right? Because it's been a very tough time for a lot of people in this space, in this movement. And I was actually a little broken up about the fact that I didn't get to be here. I was out of town last week when you did that episode, but I'm glad that you did it. I thought you did it real justice. So thanks for holding down the fort for us.
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, this one's for Charlie Kirk. Really one of the best among us, one of the best operators in politics. Actually just a really nice guy. Hard to say that about most people in politics. But yeah, we're going to be diving into what we know so far about this situation. So
yeah.
So
before we do,
we got some whiskey
to Charlie.
Cheers, Bennett, over there.
Slancha.
It's all right, guys. He's from Boston. That's what they say over there. All right. So
Irish.
This episode is brought to you by Revved Up Promo, the official apparel partner of Human Reaction. Revved Up is a premier full-service shop specializing in laser engraving, screen printing, and embroidery. Not only are they now making all of our apparel right down the road from us, they can do the same for your brand and ship it to you anywhere in the world. Revved Up helps you navigate the extensive universe of merch options and uses state-of-the-art techniques to showcase your brand in its very best light. So if you want to support our show and our generous sponsor, you can now do so by buying our merch and by turning to Revved Up Promo for your own custom apparel needs. Reach them at revveduppromo.com. That's with 2 V's and 2 P's, or just check the show notes for a link.
all right. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to try my best to steel man the government's position here. And so we're going to get through that, and then we're going to look at the
How dare you?
very dynamic. And this is like, especially like looking back, how the public handles these moments is interesting because the internet has so changed them, right? It was years before we got the Zapruder film in terms of JFK, right? It was years before we really understood alternative hypotheses to 9/11. Now it happens within minutes.
Right.
So we're going to do our best to kind of cut through and then talk about this and give a fair account of what the FBI and the sheriffs have put out so far. I did my best to try to pull together a timeline, noting that the timeline is very hard to pull together right now because they're not telling us a lot.
Would be nice to have timestamps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So-
and then we'll dive into later, after we do the steel manning, we'll dive in and kind of see what we're thinking about the current timeline, but we want to give a whole smooth process of like, here's what the information we have been given so far.
And if you're wondering about all the alternative hypotheses that you've seen on the internet, we're going to hit those too. So just hold on. Don't think that we're like here to be Con Inc. and tell you what the FBI, everything the FBI says is true. We're going to be trying to cut the difference, call balls and strikes where we see them, and navigate this with you in real time. We'll also be digging into, towards the end of the episode, all the things that have flown out of this, because there's been tremendous amount of just actually pretty substantial real changes in the media environment, about censorship and about who commits more violence, the left or the right, all these important things to discuss. So hold on with us.
Before we get into that, guys, just want to say, if you feel like you appreciate and you need an outlet in the world right now that's trying to navigate this objectively when it feels like there's so much melee and chaos in the world, this is what we're here to do. So please drop a like. If you think somebody out there in your sphere would appreciate this, please do share it with them. And if you're a commenter, we always appreciate the comments. Let us know how you have dealt with the last week, 10 days since this event. Has it changed your life meaningfully? Has it changed someone else's life that you know? We'd love to hear, just the legacy, the broader impact of what this moment is for people.
100%. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
Starting the timeline, about 4:30 to 5 a.m., the shooter, the lone gunman, Tyler Robinson, leaves St. George, Utah, about a 260 miles trip to Orem, Utah. He leaves in a gray Dodge Challenger. At approximately 8:29, he arrives at UVU campus, He's initially in a maroon shirt, light shorts, shoes, and a black hat, and he changes on campus to darker clothing. So we have video of a door camera catching him walking through the neighborhood that's nearby. And this neighborhood's important because it kind of it plays a pretty substantial role in the overall story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there he is walking by in the maroon shirt and shorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he goes onto campus. He goes up through the stairwells to a rooftop. Well, actually, he goes onto campus, changes into dark clothing.
Somewhere, like a bathroom stall or something like that, assuming?
Yeah, goes back through the neighborhood and then goes back into campus again. So this could be, and you could see this as like he gets there early, scouts the place, leaves. Now, we don't have a timestamp for this video, like how long it took him to scout the place, find his entry point to the rooftop or what. But then you notice this.
I believe,
limp.
according to TMZ, this is supposed to be at 11:49 a.m. is the second video here. But so this would be the later one, and this is the one where I think a lot of people are seeing with the limp there.
Yeah.
Right. He's not bending his right leg a lot. Looks like he has a very strange gait.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's the bend of the knee or the bend at the hip. The hip makes more sense, but the knee's also pretty stiff.
So, and what is the prevailing theory as to why he's limping?
The theory is that he's broken down his rifle into two parts: the receiver and the stock and receiver, which is sitting in his backpack. And there's good questions about that. And then there's the barrel, which is too long to sit in his backpack, is sitting in his clothes down through his pants.
Which is why he's walking awkwardly, because he's got a gun barrel in his jeans.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea. Mm-hmm. So he goes to campus at that second trip back in. He goes up a stairwell to the rooftop. He crosses to a prepared shooting position overlooking the courtyard where Charlie Kirk is going to speak.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. The stairwell to the rooftop, is that open to the public, or did he gain access to that in some way?
It hasn't been clear exactly how he's gained access, but we do have some photographs of him climbing the stairs that has been part of it too. So in these, and these are a limited set. There's more, but we don't have the video. But it is interesting, and that he's going with that limp up the stairs to get to the rooftop,
and with people around as well.
Yes.
Obviously, people in the photos with him.
You can see right there.
Yeah. You were saying, make a point there. You were making
asking.
Yeah.
Is the rooftop public access, or is it? Because most rooftops don't have a stairwell to them, I guess, is kind of my point. Unless there's like an overlook, some kind of terrace situation, in which case I would be surprised that there weren't other people up there or whatever. But just wondering about that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not an easy way down, because he jumps off the roof to get down, like a pretty substantial fall to get away at the end of it. Right. So he gets in by some access point that hasn't been made clear yet, but he gets to what effectively becomes a sniper's nest. At this time, some kids actually catch someone on a video on a rooftop. This is one of the first videos to go viral about this, seeing that little figure on top of the rooftop there. Mm-hmm. It isn't clear exactly when this is taken, but it's right around the time that Charlie Kirk gets started at 12:09 p.m. So it's somewhere between 11:45 and 12:09. So at this point, the theory is that he takes the barrel out of his clothes, reassembles his weapon, and gets into position. Oh, there's one more picture. See this picture on the bottom left there, Kyle? So that's him probably carrying the rifle. And if you look at his left leg, there's somewhat of an indentation there that is strange. But
Wait,
it isn't clear that would be his right leg.
Yeah,
Our left.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to interpret that exactly. It could be like a large cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be part of the barrel, perhaps. I mean, what's interesting is the end of this barrel would have to be the scope. So where is the scope sitting is a big part of the question, because the scope is attached to the barrel. So we'd have to also remove the scope while he's carrying it in, and then reattach the scope.
His shadow looks like a little demon. You see that on the back?
Oh, geez, you're right, dude. Yeah,
it's just kind of it's just the way the stairs are formed with the sunlight, but it looks really creepy behind him.
Yeah, it's symbolic.
I was gonna say, like, it looks like it could be like a magazine or something, but like that's not the type of gun that he was using.
No.
He's using bolt action rifle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so he's reassembled it now. He is in his firing position. At 12:23, he fires a single fatal shot from the rooftop. It was originally reported about 200 yards, but I've seen a lot of revisions, and I've looked at it myself. I've not in person, but I've looked at a lot of the proof for these revisions. Closer to 140 to 160 yards.
Okay.
So a relatively not easy shot, but a shot that a trained shooter can make. He relocates right afterwards, running across the stairwell, and then jumps down.
Okay, so after he takes the shot, he moves
Pops up,
immediately.
runs. He gets down. This shows it from the backside.
Yeah, here, I'll
how he
restart this
gets
video.
down?
I was playing it here, but if you see it, video zooming in, you can kind of see him going behind that like secondary upper structure there.
That's where we lose sight of him from the front shot, which we'll see in here in a second.
But now he's coming around the side, and then here he is, and he's about to jump down.
So the theory at this point is he's currently carrying the rifle in a towel that he carried with him, probably in his backpack.
That looked weird. Oh, it could just be like artifacts on there. It's like he's carrying a towel.
Yeah.
Just kind of seems like
looks
either that has to
floppy.
be either that has to be like a strap, or it's just floating away from him.
Well, it's probably a hunting rifle, including a strap, right? So it could be that it's just not picking up the pixelation for the strap, but he's effectively carrying it in his right arm now, drops to the ground. But he doesn't seem to be wearing his backpack at this point either, or is he wearing his backpack? Those are all the like open questions. It's hard to see.
Kind of looks like he has a backpack on.
Man, that guy didn't see him drop down. Like there was people on the other side of the building, so they wouldn't have seen him. These cars here, I wonder if anyone picked that up.
I don't know. I mean,
That person walking on the sidewalk right behind him
Yeah.
isn't walking like anything's going on at all.
right. Yeah. And then
There was a bunch of people in the parking lot, so I mean, I can chalk it up to just everybody's distracted getting to their cars and stuff like that. But
yeah. But it is
we saw there.
it is great. Like a gunshot goes out. Now it's a large enough campus perhaps that on the other side of the building people aren't aware of like what happened.
Yeah.
They think it's like a board falling or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Like
Car backfiring.
yeah, exactly.
that is true in this moment. Unless you're right there, a lot of people probably don't know. Like if you're just out in the parking lot, it might be, you're just faculty getting into your car or something. You might not know.
Or you're inside with enough soundproofing that you don't even really catch it. So that's him going up the stairs. But there's another video that I have here linked from the front, Kyle.
Is it this one?
I think it might be another different link.
It's a lot of
this
people-
one.
This one right
Yeah,
here.
this one right
Okay,
here.
gotcha.
Yeah. So this is an early catch
Here,
before we
I'll
get
mute
the
it.
security video.
Yeah, and on this one here, what it is so you see it at the beginning. It's the building in the distance. I missed it. Isn't he?
Right
there.
there.
Yeah, right there. That's him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see him
at full
move
screen,
right there.
Yeah.
And so this is like they've just heard the shot ring out and he's already moving. Like he's already running across the roof. So that means he had to have taken the shot and immediately gotten to his feet.
This boomer right here saw something in Nam, and he's not phased by it.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
jeez, yeah. It is strange how people react in these
Yeah,
moments.
he's just like,
Yeah, like this guy here in the foreground, they seem to have hit the deck. He's just like not even.
Yeah, but those ladies behind him are also just so oblivious.
they're
I feel
distracted in
like-
a conversation. They
I
had their
feel
back
like
to
they
it.
just have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well,
They're also inside.
They're inside, yeah.
And there's a bunch of people who react strangely to this. There was a man in the crowd, a weird boomer named Zinn,
George Zinn.
Zinn.
who confesses to being the shooter immediately. He later, under questioning, recants, and then he claims to the police officers that he did so to help the real shooter escape, which is obstruction of justice. That's a real
And
go to
then
jail
and then
sort
he
of
got
thing.
let go, but then he got brought back in for questioning, and then he got caught with CP on his phone.
Yeah,
That's like the official story right
yes,
now, right?
Yes, weird.
Yeah, he's like, and it was strange because there was a lot of videos. We don't have them here, but there was a lot of videos of like him getting down, and he's like, "I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to remain silent."
Yeah.
And and him getting dragged away, people yelling at him, and it's very strange. It's not like people thought it was him. It's just like, no, he claimed it was him.
Yeah.
He started making a scene like immediately.
Yeah. The one of the things about him that has come out is that he is, and if you've ever been in politics on a more intimate level, He's one of the guys who literally goes to everything. Like the entire life of a retired person that is in politics is just politics sometimes. That exists on the Democrat Party and exists in the Republican Party.
Events are their church, yeah.
Yes, they just do that, or they just do that and they do church, right? They're like, that's just what they do, and they sometimes get a little bit wacky. They get a little wild, especially if you're going to the opposition's events. Then that's when you're in the most like wacky wild position, because then you're really looking forward to the confrontation. So this guy, a little older, could have just kind of found himself in a very different mental space to do that. There was also another guy who gets up and starts chanting USA, and people there was a lot of questioning of him that came out, and then he came.
But a lot of the videos weren't very clear on that, and it made it look like he was cheering Charlie's assassination.
Yeah.
But it was my understanding of it, because he's like gone public and stuff and said like he was trying to get everybody to rally.
Yes.
As
almost like a Trump assassination
Yeah.
moment. He very dramatically misread the moment, right? And apparently he was a veteran, so he was like less fearful of the gunfire is what he claims. And I was skeptical when I first saw it, but then I saw people also in the crowd who were like, no. It's hard to hear in the audio that's been released, but he does do that. And
there's been people that have backed up his claims. Yeah.
Right.
What I saw about that is that the video that's been released with him in it does not have audio attached to it.
Yes.
So there's no way to tell exactly what he's saying, but witnesses who were in the audience have come forward and said that that is accurate.
Right. Yeah. So a young man dressed in black is also arrested, and that is known. There was a couple of times where we're like, oh, they have the shooter. Oh, they don't. Oh, they have the shooter. In those moments,
there was a different name that was originally floating around, but like we didn't have information from the FBI yet, so like it was just a lot of internet sleuthing.
Right.
And the internet discovered who that other person was, but it wasn't him.
Yeah, and it was
allegedly
just another guy who wore the wrong clothes that day, right? We didn't have a very high resolution, and like unless you've done, it's weird, again. So in security work, I've been told look for a person with this color shirt on, and when you're doing that, and you're looking at a crowd of thousands of people, you're literally like, everyone has a shirt on. Like it's like, and I'm colorblind, so it's worse. But I mean, even then, I was looking for a guy with a sombrero, and I was still like sombrero. No, sombrero. Like it's not a hat you see all the time in Bozeman, Montana. But it's a weird thing that you can get overly sensitive to. So it could have just guy who wore the wrong shirt that day, possibly.
What did the guy in the sombrero do, if I may ask?
He snuck into an event he wasn't supposed to be at.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, that's a very conspicuous hat. To sneak in to an event.
Well, with this event, it's like look for a guy with a black shirt with an American eagle on it,
right?
At a conservative event, right?
And they didn't even know that for a while too, until they got to the security film,
and which very clearly seems to be a good, camouflage for the event that was strategic on his part. Yeah.
So part of it too.
Strategery.
Thank
Nice.
you. Yes.
Miss having that.
Part of the evidence is if you look at the video of him jumping down the backside, as he puts his hand down, and there is a palm abrasion where they were able to get DNA off of that part where he jumps off the back of the building.
In the grass.
No, on the building top.
Oh,
So that
so
that
right
was
where he's
right
hanging
there.
right there, that's going to scratch the shit out of your hand,
Yeah,
right?
they got DNA there.
Yeah, that's what they claim.
okay.
So he then cuts back through the neighborhood. There is that same camera that catches him going through, actually catches him on the mountainside just barely at another part later in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't know if I caught that one or where it is exactly, but
But I remember it's like back here,
Yeah.
right? Like in the mountainside, he's kind of just out in the fields out there, and it's the same camera that caught him.
So so nearby this neighborhood is like a couple different wooded areas that he then goes to, drops off his weapon, still fully assembled, right? So he never is, and still in the towel that he uses as his escape disguise that he has a weapon in his arm, in his hand. As this is less than 500 feet from the shooting spot. So it's not very far away to get to where his drop point is for his rifle.
500 feet? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like the wooded area is just kind of right back behind that building a bit.
Okay.
So there's like a vacant home out back there and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's like a neighborhood there, and then he crosses the neighborhood, goes into another area to hide out. We don't know if he goes to his car. This is where it gets really vague, right? So like at some point we just know that they didn't find this in the wooded area, and his text messages suggest that he is like monitoring it because he wants to go get his rifle. What isn't clear is why he didn't stop in the wooded area, disassemble his rifle, pack it out the way he packed it in.
Right.
Even changing his shirt if he needed to at that point.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, that's what he did. He leaves prints on the gun as well as DNA evidence on the gun. He loses a screwdriver that he used to disassemble the gun at the building top. So in the panic of leaving, he like sets the screwdriver down, forgets about it, takes a shot, gets up and runs, leaves it there. So maybe he can't take apart the weapon
I see.
at the end, right?
Gotcha.
So
Now, the initial did the initial FBI timeline say that he disassembled the gun before getting off the roof?
well, that was stipulated because that video, if you watch that video of him jumping off the back, it isn't clear if that's the gun. And I understand where people are coming from. I didn't capture at first that could be a gun. But when you think about it in terms of working backwards from the evidence we know, that moment where it crosses the white and he sits down, is that a rifle that has a towel wrapped around it with a strap he's holding onto? With a backpack on his back.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like if we look at from the front too, like he's up right away. Well, people are still going down and he's already running.
Yeah.
So like the question, there's a question there to me of like, because I believe that was the original. I don't know if that's the current case, but I believe the original one was that he disassembled up there.
Yeah.
That was my original understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's changed since then. It's
and
just
I
like,
don't
I don't
wanna-
see
I don't
what the
wanna-
time, like on the timeline, it doesn't make sense to me. That
Let's not go into that stuff just yet. I don't want to distract us from getting the full timeline yet.
But what you're doing is you're pointing out that this was a major error within the timeline that went mainstream alternatively. But what I'm trying to present is my best understanding of the best case that they could assemble for this. And that
like
and
what
that seems
Governor
solid.
Cox and the FBI presented.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not even sure they've been that systematic about it. I'm just like trying to connect the dots myself and pull together this timeline.
True.
Yeah. I mean, that's been part of the frustration. So afternoon, in the evening, there's text messages between him and his trans partner roommate. Admits to the shooting, directs them to a note, the roommate to a note under his keyboard, the shooter's keyboard. Quote, I had to take the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk. I'm going to take it, is what the note supposedly said. The phrasing there, I want to say it again. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk. I'm going to take it. Okay.
Improper English.
Yeah. Worries about the text message back and forth. Worries about retrieving the
motherfucker, do you speak it?
His text messages as he can. Worries about retrieving the rifle. Rifle. Mentions the fingerprints that he's worried he missed on wiping off the rifle, which is interesting because he has a towel there. But I mean, this is the panic moment, right? Like you can understand that he gets to the woods and he's just like, I don't know what to do. I can't take my rifle back down and hide it to get back to my vehicle. I can't walk through the neighborhood with a rifle now. Yeah. So I just dump it, right? He says it's his grandfather's gun that was gifted to him, comments on the scope and its price, and urges messages to be deleted and them not to talk to the press. There's more detail there. We'll dive into them.
Well, I imagine most people by this point have probably seen that exchange.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, it's very widely available on X and other places.
New York Times has it.
Yeah.
So the note that he's referring to up top is the thing that I quoted. It's placed there. The roommate destroys it, but not before taking a picture of it. That seems really unclear, but there appears to be a picture of it. Or the evidentiary standard that the police claim, and I'm not sure if this is FBI or sheriff's office, is that they know what was in the note. But we don't know how they know what's in the note other than what the guy claimed it was, but the note was destroyed.
Right. That's what they said. The note was destroyed, but we know for a fact what was in it.
Yeah, which, I mean, like you can say, it doesn't make sense that the roommate would tell you you'd think the boyfriend, the trans boyfriend.
Just quit.
I'm just trying to be accurate about who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just
spit it out.
The tranny. There's one tranny in this story. We can
would cover for their boyfriend, right? Not be like, no, this is exactly what the note said, right? So that might be the whole basis of the police knowledge on the note.
That is an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, but people have stipulated, is there a picture? Why are they so confident? So, okay. So in that evening, he attempts to return to the wooded area to drop the rifle. This is based upon the text messages and why I'm extrapolating this. Like he tries to get to an area where he can see where that rifle is at, but he sees a squad car there. It's too close. He abandons the attempt and he ditches the gun entirely. So the FBI at 11 or at 7 at the next day, 7:19 a.m., they announced the recovery of the suspected weapon in the wooded area, right? So that whole evening, the whole time from the shooting to then, no one knows about the gun except for him. And at some point in there, the police find it. But they announce it at 7:19 a.m. the next morning, releasing the actual picture of it and what it is. An old Mauser 30-06 wrapped in a towel. They suspect the FBI releases the images of him that we are using here. Parents then see the photo. The father recognizes the rifle as a family heirloom. Confrontation follows with him. Robinson implies guilt and talks about suicide. They invite to this confrontation with him a retired deputy sheriff's officer who's like a family friend. It's also important to note that his father was a policeman and also a minister, I think in the Mormon church, and persuades him to surrender. Right, so this family friend persuades him to surrender along with his parents. September 12th, he turns himself in at the Southern Utah, Washington County. He's booked without bail and placed on suicide watch prevention. The partner is arrested and questioned and then released. Now, Candace claims this, and they have been in contact with this partner's family. But I couldn't find any corroboration with that anywhere else. So the police didn't tell anybody that, but Candace was able to get that through the family.
Yeah, she said she's been talking to the family directly, which, we have to take her word for that on now. But I imagine she'll bring more to the table if that's true.
Yeah, and I would consider it a reputable source. It would be very damaging if she lied about that, right? So this case, when it comes to that, is like it's really strange. It's really interesting that they wouldn't take all the devices in the household because they're a couple, and that would be more standard, right? Because the person who's most likely to work with someone else is someone who's intimate in their life. But they don't do that, apparently, according to Candace. So in September 16th, is formally charged with aggravated murder and other counts, obstruction, witness tampering, for example, telling someone to delete messages is illegal. Prosecution says that they will seek the death penalty. And then we have the main core evidence of the texts, the note, the DNA on the rifle, the towel, and then the engraved casing, something we didn't talk about. So when they find the rifle in the woods, this is important. What made one of the things that's very difficult about the case in the very beginning is that he does not, after he files, he does not cycle his rifle. That would expel the casing and there'll be evidence left behind. He doesn't do that. He fires, picks up, and goes. So when they find it, they find an unused casing with things scribbled on it and a magazine, or basically your magazine chamber, with other things also scribed on it.
I got the stuff right here if we want to read them.
Yeah.
The fired one that hit Charlie says, "Notices bulge. Oh, whoa, what's this?" And then the casings are the ones that were unfired were hey fascist catch, and then a bunch of arrow symbols. I think it was kind of like gamer speak.
Oh, it's the Hellbomb summoning sequence for Helldivers, and that's also a quote from Helldivers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow. And then if you read this, you are gay. LMAO.
Gay!
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which Bella Chow's like a anti-fascist rebellion song, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
totally a right winger.
some other things that are kind of some other things are totally within the mainstream is there's prior knowledge from trans/leftist people tweeting like that are intimating this.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people were digging this stuff up, where there's a bunch of like Anon accounts. That's Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him literally. And then let's just say something big will happen tomorrow.
Right.
And so like, people like this stuff started getting drummed up before we had like any information.
Yeah.
These tweets. But just worth noting.
Yeah.
Those are there.
We did get leaked Discord messages with his Discord from his Discord server with his gaming buddies. There's a bunch to it, but for the most part, what we're looking at here is a bunch of regular gamer dudes talking about games and the weather and politics and things like that. There's no plot design here that was leaked here. That doesn't mean it's not also on his devices or someplace else or things that were deleted. But we also have statements from Discord that suggest that they didn't pick up anything on this.
Is 55095, is that the zip code?
I don't know.
It's kind of, I felt, as soon as I saw his like gamer tag, I always felt like it was very odd.
And he has a couple too. He has that one. He has another one that's about bed bulges.
Yeah, like Zealous Monkey just feels like, I don't know, it feels like something that like a gaming platform would pre-generate as like, do you want to use this username? Like,
Yeah.
It feels like one of those to me.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Discord generated one.
Yeah, like it feels like that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if the 55095 is like a zip code.
Yeah.
I always felt weird about his gamer tag when I saw this.
Yeah, that's one of them, right? And that's the one where he admits that he was the shooter.
The 55095 zip code corresponds to an area in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Weird.
Wait, what?
It is associated with the Minnesota Correctional Facility, St. Paul, a state prison located in Ramsey County.
I was gonna say, well, the zip
that's
code is in Wisconsin.
That is weird. Has anyone noticed that before?
That is weird.
Is this a novel revelation?
I looked at that and I'm like, that's got to be like a Utah zip code or something. And I never dug into it at all. But like just us being here, I'm like, I'm just going to throw that out there. What is that?
Yeah.
You got to say it like Tucker. What is that?
What is that?
Yeah.
Why is nobody asking that question?
So, yeah, I mean, but otherwise, it's pretty much benign, right? How they get the shooter, the cops put out the pictures, the mother and father saw them, they brought in the sheriff's message, right? They brought him into the FBI. The theory of death is that Kirk is shot in the chest or in the neck, right? There is no like official autopsy report or anything like that, but this is like the dominant theory is how it's been reported. Either shot in the chest, it hits the spine and reflects up. Bullets do weird things in the inner bodies. I've seen it in deer, so I think it's totally possible in a human.
For sure.
There's other theories that came out that were like it struck like armor. It's not clear that he was wearing armor or not. That's really disputed.
There
There's
are witness
evidence
accounts that he was not. That,
Yeah.
that his shirt was, I mean, it was a white shirt, so it's sort of translucent, right?
he was nipping. You could see his nipples. Right?
Yeah.
You would not show up in
Special body armor.
He's got the Batman body. I
was just saying the Batman.
90s, 2000.
Is that the Val Kilmer one?
Yeah, right.
There was a lot of people theorizing on a lot of things. Like a lot of people were thinking doctored video and stuff like that because of his ring, like switches fingers and stuff. But he has like a ring that is like a clasp ring and stuff like that. Also things about like people were getting weirded out about the mic on his chest, but I think people just didn't realize it was a mic on his chest.
Yeah.
So when his like shirt flaps up.
Well, and I watched, I mean, more content around the alternative theories and every angle of this than I probably should have in the last week. But one person analyzing this pointed to the fact that he has an earpiece in his right ear. And the cable for which was more than likely looped around over his left shoulder and clipped in or somehow attached to the mic that he was wearing on the front. And when the bullet hit, the concussion of that kicked the earpiece out of his ear with enough force to pull the cable up, which caused his shirt to do that kind of funny
and that's what caused it.
shape. Yeah. So the cabling on him was sort of to blame for that is one
that
theory.
makes sense.
But the important thing is we don't really have an official ballistics report, but a lot of amateur reporting happening on this, trying to make sense of what we see when we look at the video.
Right.
And that's understandable because it's
sure.
very strange. Yeah. One, hitting a neck is harder than hitting center mass in a body. The reason why you usually shoot center mass is that. The way his body reacts was explained by some as it hitting the spine. I mean, it's hard to say, but thank God, right? I mean, that if it did hit the spine, he's dead immediately. Like that's just loss of consciousness. You're out. He's not in pain for the hour or so before his heart stops beating, or however long it was, 45 minutes. Yeah. And then, or he was shot in the neck, but that doesn't explain exactly how he moves, because you would usually get more of a this sort of movement rather than like this sort of movement. So we don't have a clear ballistics understanding. The bullet was never recovered. It wasn't found in like the floor behind him or anything like that, which would usually be able to catch something like that if it pierced through his neck and went to the ground behind him. And the angle of the fire, it looks peculiar from where it's at. And if it was an exit wound, right? Because that would be more to his right than straight on. So what happened? It's understandable that people are asking that question and trying to make sense of it. And we'll dive into a little bit that more in that minute, but I do want to cover lastly is just reminding everybody, regular viewers will, I'm sure, be able to recite this by memory because I say it so much, because it is so helpful in understanding your confidence about what you believe. And is that in a trial, you really have, as a prosecutor, you're really looking for is three things: the means, the motive, and the material evidence that support that, right? So your means is, was this person capable of doing it? Did they have an alibi? Could they have been somewhere else? Did they have the physical skill and capability to do so? Well, this guy was a shooter. He was a Second Amendment supporter who also enjoyed guns and gun culture. He, in his house, had multiple shooting targets that were discovered with, that were shot. We don't know how good the groupings are. That hasn't been released, but assumably there's that. So you want a reasonable amount of means of what we know. There is a sensible means. He is unaccounted for by his parents that day. One of the first things that happens is his mom seeing the thing, the first reports and seeing that, she calls him up and he's like, oh, I've been sick for 2 days. Mm-hmm. So what happened there? He wasn't accounted for at this time. He has no alibi. The motive is that he was a leftist guy who was, went to school for 1 year and got radicalized somewhere after his high school experience where he scores very high in his GPA. He got a 32 on the ACT. He got a $30,000 scholarship to go to college. He goes for 1 year for engineering, drops out, and then in some not well understood or accounted for timeline, winds up living with this trans guy who becomes his boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. And the trans guy is pre-transitioning, but planning to transition.
Yes.
Is my understanding too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then in the texts is where they're most leaning on for that motive, right? So it's, quote, some kinds of hate can't be negotiated. And that's pretty much it, right? And the material evidence, and there's a fair amount of material evidence, right? Does do the fingerprints match? Does the DNA match the rifle? Does the ballistics match the rifle from where he was sitting at, according to the video that we have of someone on that area? So each one of those chains connects to each other in order to make a coherent story about him being there and capable of shooting Charlie Kirk. That's the official case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now that we're done defending the FBI.
Now, what do you really think happened?
Yeah. So do the ballistics. Yeah. We don't know.
I think it's important to preface with that we don't know.
Yeah. Of course we don't.
There's a lot of things that I just I feel like I need more information. I feel like I need more video footage on certain areas of this. We're getting a lot of grainy JPEGs.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have more video footage. I feel really weird about George Zinn, this guy that just decides to become just claims that he's the shooter.
Right.
It's kind of is he a crazy guy or is that a purposely set out decoy, Right. There's those questions that I have raging through my mind right now.
Right. It sort of implies some kind of collaboration going on at that point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, the ballistic evidence is the thing that I'm struggling with the most.
For sure.
Right. The assessment. Okay. So you can use audio to make a pretty good guess about distance and direction, depending on when you have multiple sources to triangulate in time where the initial report happens and then the crack afterwards of the bullet, going through, breaking the sound barrier and cracking that sound. That sound tells you a lot when you have multiple video angles about where something is. Mm-hmm. So audio analysis should be able to tell us a lot about the ballistics, but we don't have anything officially yet. We won't get that until we get to a trial.
We do have some independent analysis of that.
Yes. And I don't know who to believe, right? It's so
That's
hard
the
to know,
problem.
right? Because you got random user just claiming no, it definitely happened behind him and to the side. And
from 70 to 90 feet, not 70 to 90 yards rather, not 150.
Yes, right? Almost double, right? And that is not margin, that's magnitude, right? So when you're doing magnitude, it's something's wrong with the original theory. It's evidence, but it's not a striker because that guy has no reputational loss because he's a random user on X. If he's wrong.
I took a lot of mental notes of people that immediately jumped to conclusions instantly on certain things.
Yeah.
I got very ooh, I'm not going to trust any of your reporting on this. I'm not going to trust any, I have a lot of people in my mind where I'm just I'm not trusting anything this person has to say. And a lot of different people with a lot of different theories. I'm I'm not trusting anything that you have to say because of just some of the knee jerk instant, I know what it is kind of thing.
Well, and it's everything. I said it in the monologue, it's some people are trying to blame this on guitar. Or not even trying to blame it on, just saying if it's Qatar, I mean, there was a lot of that, and that's a shameful component of social media culture.
A lot of people really wanted to jump their geopolitics into it.
Yeah, but to the degree to which regular people are trying to apply their mind to best create an argument for this, that is the best of social media culture in terms of I could see is like if you're super smart and you know trigonometry and you could try to figure out where this is coming from to get an independent analysis before the police do and before they seize all the data or something like that, awesome. That's a good thing that the internet's for.
Yeah.
And I do wonder about the entry and exit wound question. To me, as someone who shoots a 30-06, I've been shooting and hunting with a 30-06 since I was about very young, 12 years old. The exit wound looks consistent with an exit wound of of a caliber of a 30-06, very possible.
What wound are you referring to as an exit wound?
In the neck. If it somehow doesn't appear on the video that it goes through his shirt and then you don't see anything in the shirt that indicates a hole that would then strike his and then go out, that's possible. But it's definitely not Occam's razor. Occam's razor would suggest that it was through the back of the skull and then out the artery. Because important to remember is that we're not talking about here, it's here. This is where your carotid artery is
Right,
at.
it's in front.
Yeah, it's in
on the
front
left
to the side. It's at that 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock from the body. So it's how it got there. I mean, bullets do tumble inside bodies, especially when they strike bone. They do all kinds of weird shit. It's very possible. That said, what's more simple is a shot from behind that goes out through there for the exit hole. But we do have video from that angle, and it isn't clear that he shot from there either, from those videos that I've seen. We're not going to play any videos today because YouTube, but
Well, and
Also-
I think
also
by
just
this
because-
point, well, yeah, I mean, by this
A
point,
lot of people have seen too.
Yeah.
I
Hard to
feel
escape
like
it.
anyone who has wanted to explore this in that level of detail has seen it.
yeah.
And
Well, and part of it was
I
I
don't
actually
see it.
assembled a lot of the videos so that we could review them. But YouTube, and then additionally that I think that video from that side of it would be Charlie Kirk's right is not as well seen. And then I did review that. It's very interesting what you see.
Yes.
There's like a vent area up there that seems positioned for that angle from what I've seen in that case. But I don't know. Does the approach make sense? Like how he got to his shooter's nest, right? Well, yeah, I'm kind of neutral on that one, right? I mean, is it possible to walk upstairs while not moving your hip? Yeah, it's not easy, but you can do it. Take them up one at a time. And we don't have the video, so we don't know. You can bend your knee while not bending your hip. How tall is he? We don't know. So it's hard to know whether or not he could have it there and it basically have enough hip mobility in order to get your foot up just enough to get up the stairs.
Right. And do the stairs go cleanly all the way to the roof?
Right.
Or do you have to climb something from the stairs? How do you climb with a rifle in your jeans?
Yeah.
Another question that I had is from that very early video of just the top of a figure that is shot by the students who see the guy on the roof. Mm-hmm. Did they tell anyone? Did they do anything about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of reminds me of the Trump assassination where there was a bunch of people that saw beforehand.
Right.
And they're trying to like get people, but like it's all chaos and it's all in the moment and stuff like that. Right. Like I imagine if you're in that scene, like actually I could even see you thinking that that's part of the security team or something like that. Yeah. Like I could imagine that world. Like I've been to big events with snipers on roofs and you sit there and you're like, I sure hope that's security.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right. Yeah. I mean, the thing about Thomas Crooks is he was so obviously not security, right? Because he looks like a goblin.
And there was plenty of videos on Thomas
Because he was
Crooks
on
of
the
him
extra
like,
sloped roof.
Yeah, super sloped. That was
can't
the
get
dangerous
up
thing
there.
about this. A lot of sloped roofs here. But I remember seeing those videos of like people being like, police, like, and they're like looking at him with the videos and stuff
Yes.
like that. But like, you know, it takes time for things to move. Like it's hard to, like a cop is going to be like, what's going on? What, you know, finish my donut, put it down. Go over. Yeah. Like,
Well, also just real quick on Joe's point, like if you're looking at that video, it's obviously taken on a cell phone. If you're looking on a cell phone, even on our screen, I barely see him.
Yeah.
So like
True.
it's probably
Yeah.
really hard to tell what you even recorded.
exactly.
Right. That's fair. That's
I mean,
super fair.
of the like the young men looking at it, like there's someone up there. Like I could see even like questioning yourself, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, maybe it's not a person. It could be, it could be anything. It could be a cat up there. I don't know.
I can totally imagine
You know,
myself
I
in
mean,
that scenario being like
It's
that.
probably till afterwards, and they're like, "Oh shit, Charlie Kirk was shot. Didn't we see someone on the roof?" And you're like going through, like, "Oh shit, we saw him." You know, I can't. You gotta feel terrible then too. Like, why didn't I say anything? You know,
Well, and if you're just like an average college student, like you probably are not privy to understanding like the level of Charlie Kirk's security. Like he probably
Also
like
that.
he's gonna have security like not defined as security like in the crowds and stuff like that, but this isn't Secret Service level security. Like he's going to have good security, but not like crazy good security.
Yeah. And even the Secret Service, a little lacking in security. We discovered this last summer.
We got to be careful with those slopes,
Okay.
One of the other areas that just has, really, it has me, but it also has the internet at large feeling weird is the text message thread with between this guy and his tranny boyfriend. It's like there's a lot of weird language, and I have some of it up here on the screen. I won't read through it all, but there's a lot of like my love and like. It's like I have to retrieve the weapon and it's like almost like he's like it almost feels like he's like purposely incriminating himself in some ways throughout the text message thread, and like that in itself felt very odd.
So it depends on. I can understand why it does read odd, because it does read odd. It does seem strange. Like he leaves the note and then he does the thing. Maybe he left the note because he wanted them to know the truth. He didn't know he was going to be successful. Then he was startlingly successful to the point where he's texting the roommate at a later point and then says, go look at the note. And they're like, what? Are you joking? And then at that point, if he's literally considering, well, there are really three options. One, as he says in here, I get away with it and I tell no one till my deathbed. Two, I get caught and everyone finds out that way. So I, can text you this and I trust you to delete them. Or three, I commit suicide, which he does threaten to do when he's confronted by his parents. So if his plan was any of those things, he wanted his partner to know, what really happened. And you can kind of get like the poeticness of it. Like, especially if you're bi and this person's trans and the issue of the day is trans and maybe you're kind of killing them for that person. Does that make sense? Like if you try to put yourself in this person's head and you're thinking like there's a trans genocide going on, which is literally leftist rhetoric right now, and you're thinking like Charlie Kirk is the embodiment of it, and I'm going to go snuff that person's life out for that cause. You tell the person you're doing the cause for.
Yeah. Well, there's also just like I've been in situations where you're like in high stress situations, you're working with a bunch of guys, and you're kind of like almost LARPing like you're in a war. So like you and your rhetoric kind of changes in your text messages where you're like, I'm deploying now. And like it's kind of like a goofy way to relieve the stress, like in very stressful situations where you're just like, you're LARPing like you're in a war and you're using certain types of vernacular like you would do. And I could see that being in the situation where it's like, he's thought about this a lot. He's figuring like he thought about what he's going to say. He's using certain vernacular and making it kind of poetic. A lot of these guys oftentimes, you'll see that in like the manifestos of like school shooters and stuff like that, where they try to be like overly poetic with their manifestos. The Minnesota shooter wasn't like that, but like other manifestos are often like that. And so I could see that in this moment of like him having this God complex in a sense where he's trying to be a little bit more poetic in certain ways in his words. And it's just like, and not even like trying, it's just kind of naturally becoming like that. I could see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people on the internet suggesting that this is not how a 22-year-old texts.
Yes.
Which I could see. There's certain words where you're like, okay, that's odd, right? Like, why would he call it a squad car and not a cop or a cop car or something like that, right? Like that's sort of an industry term, which is leading some people to think this might be fabricated by, authorities to establish whatever timeline it is that they want to establish. And they lay out literally every point in there. Like everything that they're relying on in terms of, the motive and all
this
that
is the
stuff.
Perfect evidence. Everything is just laid out perfectly for you.
It's
Also delete
carpet.
this. Also delete this.
Yeah. It's a red carpet of admissions of guilt.
Yeah. It feels weird. It was like a
don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
It was like a lot of people have been going through and kind of searching their text messages. Like, how many times have I used the word vehicle in a text message? Because most people would say car or truck or something like that.
I say vehicle.
It is weird. I heard the Candace Owens thing, and I went in and I searched vehicles. Like, okay, I'm weird because I use that quite a bit. Vehicle, car, rig.
I think it was
All kinds
I think
of
it was Sagar at Breaking Points. He was like, the only times I went through insertion, he was like doing it on air. It's just like some like scammer talking to me about my car insurance. And then I have one friend that once used the word vehicle, and so I had to ask him like, dude, why are you using the word vehicle?
Actually, I have a text from Joe about returning his Suburban to return vehicle to airport.
But that goes to my point. That's Joe. He's a man on the mission.
Yeah, right.
That's right. That's right. I had to deploy to the
Business
airport
mode.
to return my vehicle.
You encountered a squad
To the
car
drop
on
zone.
the way. Squad car is strange.
Squad car's weird.
The complete sentences, to the degree to which they are complete sentences and look like someone ran it through Grammarly or something like that. I mean, missing like some apostrophes and things like that. It's still overall, it's
Using
it's
brackets
strange.
is kind of a crazy move.
Yeah, brackets from my dad.
Well, that might be their insertion of taking out his name. Maybe is that an FBI insertion?
Since Trump, why?
Wait, since Trump got into office.
It's probably his name.
no, he would say my dad, right?
Wouldn't
he wouldn't say Bob.
Well, think about it. He's estranged from his father. Maybe
That is
he's
true.
like Mr. whatever.
Or maybe he does. I mean, some
But
kids
we
call
know-
their dads by their first name. It's
But
very
also,
strange.
we
but
know
they do.
this guy's name. Are we not going to be able to figure out who his dad is?
Oh, we know who his dad is.
But there's
That's
like
what I mean. So why are they?
Yeah, he's like
taking it?
he's like
It could-
publicly he's publicly said that he's not taking the reward that Bill Ackman put out. Right?
it might be procedure. It might just be pure
Okay.
procedure.
Might be,
Like
right.
think
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
a,
Like
that's a good point.
they have a procedure and they know that the public knows it, but they still do it anyways.
well, that's also the thing is like
But he
I,
also says my dad right above it and doesn't.
That's
I
also
don't
true.
know.
I don't know.
Well,
So,
like-
so I don't think he like called him by his first name.
That's the thing
the
also
point.
too is like I would like to just see the screenshots of all of this. I would
No,
really
'cause those
like
would have the time codes.
Well, and that's that's the problem is like there's a lot of things where I really wish we had timestamps on. Like that's the unfortunate thing is like you trying to put through like the time of everything on all this.
handle the truth.
Like getting a little bit more of a clear picture would be very useful, and it would help. I mean, boost the legitimacy of the FBI because like a lot of people just and it's not even just like right wingers, like the left wing at large is very like confused. It seems to be a bipartisan thing where like something feels very weird about the current official story.
Right. Right. I mean, this establishes enough, if you take it seriously, that he is a lefty doing this because of hate. No person on the right says I killed someone because of hate. That's just not a word we use. Right?
No.
Yeah,
No,
it's,
and
it's
like
pretty
there's
clear
just
he's
like
left-wing.
I mean I could understand. I mean there's a tenable motive for the shooter to be a groyper before we know anything about the shooter, right? Because there's like this Charlie Kirk versus groyper war thing, and maybe one of them goes crazy and then goes and shoot him. I'm not saying Nick Fuentes would have loved that. That would have been terrible for their movement.
No, Nick wouldn't have wanted
Exactly.
that,
Yeah. Nick didn't want this. I mean, like the whole point being like, my point is like, there was a time for about a day when that was a wild speculation that had some merit. But the minute we knew anything, we knew it wasn't.
No, you had guys like Destiny on Piers Morgan like saying that he was right wing.
I know.
like, it was all that stuff, right?
way later than any.
all these like internet libs, like they all very quickly jumped onto. See, he's a right winger. He's a groyper. He's all this stuff
On the case-
It's right wing on right wing violence. It's
Destiny is the one that drives me craziest because on the case that he once was a more standard, like a conservative, and his parents are Republicans. Destiny
Cuban Republicans
was
in Florida,
once
yeah.
a Republican, and his parents were Republicans.
once a libertarian.
Yes, he was a Ron Paul kid at one point. People change. Like, of course that happens. I mean, like the whole case that he can't change in a year. Of course he can't. Like that's. I'm like,
That's one of the things because a lot of the left wing kind of trying to shoo this isn't a left wing problem type of stuff is just
Yeah.
like they're like, well, his parents are conservative, he was conservative, like all that stuff. It's just like how often, all the time, people go to college and then rebel from their parents.
Yes.
all the time,
Yeah.
and it goes both ways on that. Like his upbringing from his parents doesn't really showcase where he's currently standing right now.
Yes.
Like he left college and he's been with a tranny boyfriend for a while. It's just like, no, he's very clearly left wing.
Yes.
Like he's coded completely for that.
don't get me wrong. There are transvestite right wingers.
Sure.
There are
Blair White, right? Like,
Yeah, Blair
you know,
White,
there are, yeah.
Yeah, the former athlete. What's his name? He voted for Trump.
Kim the
The Kardashian.
Jenner, Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn
yeah,
Jenner.
Yeah.
Don't dead name.
Sorry.
Just straight up dead name.
You guys remember when Caitlyn Jenner put on Twitter? It's just like it was just like people were asking, I think ChatGPT at the time, of being like, what's worse, a nuclear holocaust or dead naming a transgender person?
Oh, yes.
And ChatGPT or Gemini or one of those put out like dead naming a transgender person. And Caitlyn Jenner's just like, no, you can dead name me.
yeah.
Seriously. Can I bring up something that I just found out today?
Yeah.
Interesting about the Utah Valley University. It has very close ties to intelligence. So there is actually a program there, the Center for National Security Studies, which was established in 2016, which is UVU's flagship program for national security education. They've got CIA faculty ties. Their programs focus on courses that cover intelligence collection, analysis, counterterrorism, emerging technologies, and they emphasize experiential learning, including simulations and internships with federal agencies. So very, very close ties to the intel state.
Interesting. I will say, like, it's hard to ignore. It feels intel-oppy in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things where I feel like I need to have more information and more evidence to come to certain conclusions. But like those conclusions are sitting in the back of my mind of like, if these pieces of evidence came together, like I could see the either domestic or foreign intel aspect of this.
Yeah.
And I've often questioned, especially as we're kind of moving into this, where we have Antifa currently being designated as a domestic terror organization, but also just like a lot of the kind of move towards trans shooters, like there's just like a big trend of that happening. It often makes me wonder if that's like a good asset cultivation ground.
Well, I think it absolutely is.
As an ideology.
Absolutely.
You breed resentful people and then you activate them when necessary.
Yes,
right?
exactly. You breed radicalized people who inherently have a nihilistic view, who are attached to these nihilistic groups like 762, I believe it is the radical, like satanic nihilist online community. And I don't think we have any evidence that Tyler Robinson was tied to those. But absolutely, it's fertile ground for that. I mean, it's fertile ground because the whole nature of Antifa, either organically or from some kind of astroturfed means, right, through Soros funding and other NGOs and stuff, is bred to be radicalized. The pallets of bricks phenomenon is sort of a part of the fabric of this whole organization.
Which makes you wonder, because there's a lot of stuff like J.D. Vance. I watched J.D. Vance's full Charlie Kirk podcast takeover. And that's a big push right now, is going after these funders of these organizations. That's a big strategic push that it looks like. And you kind of wonder, you wonder if there's more knowledge that we, the public, don't know about some of that stuff.
I don't wonder. I know there's a lot that we don't know that privileged people know. Mm-hmm. Privileged in the informational sense.
Yeah, and they got to be, when you're at war, you got to be somewhat secretive sometimes. So like there is a reason to hide some of that information sometimes. So it's just like, I wonder how much of that is like known knowns versus like known unknowns or unknown unknowns type of stuff.
Right. Right. As far as for what we do know about Antifa intelligence, if you go to 3 and then you go to C and then subsection I and then subsection 1.
These are our notes, people.
You can find a Mike Benz video
here.
and check that one out. I think it's compelling for this particular discussion.
Okay, pulling it up now. And this is Mike Benz's world, is kind of trying to decipher all of this stuff right here. So here's the Mike Benz video.
You have this State Department Trantifa network. They serve as militant boots on the ground in Europe, in South America, in Asia. And I pointed this out when you're talking about these networks, you even see Republican support for it. I pointed this out in Bangladesh, for example, last year when the Biden administration ousted the democratically elected prime minister in a coup. What was happening was the State Department was funding their little CIA cutout groups like the National Endowment for Democracy. Documents leaked online of the IRI, the International Republican Institute, which is the Republican wing of the National Endowment for Democracy, and their baseline assessment of the situation in Bangladesh and what options could be used by them with State Department money to destabilize the country, to bring it to its knees, because they did not expect to be able to win the next election. And a big part of that destabilization strategy was working with the transgender community in Bangladesh. I mean, this was a Republican Chamber of Commerce operation, and yet yet you had the Republicans spending millions of dollars on the Bangladeshi transgender community because they could be easily radicalized and serve as the boots on the ground fodder against the democratically elected government in Bangladesh. And so you had them funding transgender dance festivals, transgender education clinics, transgender music and cultural events. You had them juicing the financial funnel of the entire network through all these different philanthropic or arts and cultural styled names. But what you're doing is you're paying the people, you're paying the organizers.
Yeah, and like that's one of those things where when we're looking at, say, like go back to the Doge times when everything was happy and everybody was friends, and Elon Musk was uncovering all these like trans studies for $5 million in Libya, like all this stuff, like whatever they were, it's like this is the type of stuff that's going on. It's like filtering, it's paying the organizers of stuff to be your kind of rent-a-mob ready to go for a protest or to be able to write op-eds and try to dissuade certain political parties, those types of things. And I often question to myself, just like, okay, so we have the rent-a-mob phenomenon that exists. I love Mike Penz's like rent-a-mob like classifying as that because that's what it is. Like the renta assassin type of pipeline probably exists there too, legitimately.
Well, and if you were going to do it, the best way to do it would be through Antifa, right? Because you have highly ideological, highly like organized and secretive, and like people who see themselves under a system of repression trying to overthrow that with a philosophy that is completely fine with violence.
You have a bunch of useful idiots ready to go.
Yes. And then if you combine that with the trans ideology, then you have even more passionate metaphysical battle that you're battling against mainstream American culture. So like it does that exist in the United States? And did Tyler Robinson participate in that? We don't know. But we do know that the government has brought foreign seize operations to the United States against the law before. Right? The CIA in the 1980s sold crack cocaine in the United States. Right? So like that's illegal, but they did it anyways. As long as it's plausible deniable, it's constitutional according to the CIA themselves. So therefore, could they have done this? Of course they could. Now, we don't know that, but I think it's worthy of speculation because of the government's own track record when it comes to these things.
It's a good thing to have in the back of your mind.
Yes.
Right? Always with all of these things to have, like, same with like MK Ultra experiments and things like that. All of these types of dynamics could be at play here, and it's just we don't know if they're at play. But it's always good to have that sitting there in the back of your mind.
Well, right. And I think, historical events like the JFK assassination, all the questions around that, and the ability for the internet now to accumulate information and to, find these alternative sources and do our own digging without the FBI and other, governmental agencies that are involved in this investigation, giving us the information that we need to establish a coherent motive and motive and material evidence here. It leaves us wanting in a sense that we have to go find our own. And the fact that they're not giving us that information is fanning the flames of this. And so part of me is like, is there a through line for a motive to want the internet to go crazy speculating over this?
That's fair. It could be motive. It could be as benign as we haven't updated the systems of disclosure for the internet age, right? I mean, because understand all the systems that are built for investigations are not built for telling the public about those investigations. They're all built specifically to keep the public from knowing about investigations so they can't interfere with them. Meaning third parties who are involved can't read in the media what they're investigating and then adjust their plans accordingly if they're going after a group.
Right.
Does that make sense? So there's also a common sense for why they wouldn't if they're trying to keep people who are there investigating, such as, for example, that person that predicts it ahead of time, that individual, that random anonymous person. I mean, they if they're doing their job, they should be chasing that lead. That said, the reason why people have a good reason to be skeptical is because these are the same people who, to this day, still defend Waco. To this day, now it's easy for people of our age to take for granted Waco as a blunder of the FBI, but keep in mind at the time they were justifying it and covering it up. It took revelations from private sector actors questioning the narrative and then finding the material evidence and writing books and doing documentaries to demonstrate to the public how it was a terrible operation that didn't just get out of hand, but from the very beginning was not meant in good faith and was meant to be a political lesson. to intimidate the right wing.
Over the course of decades, too.
Yes,
all
and
that
the same thing with
disclosure
Ruby
happened.
Ridge and the FBI work there, or and same thing with Oklahoma City. So many of these things have major underlying throughputs. I mean, to this day, we still don't know enough about 9/11, right? And to this day, we still have FBI investigations that are being undercut by new developments constantly of things that they knew. Tucker Carlson's 9/11 documentary got delayed because of Charlie Kirk's assassination, but is due to come out on the 23rd. So we might cover that when that happens.
It's also just like, it's very easy to equate a lot of what's been going on lately to the 60s, where you have the JFK assassination and the MLK assassination. And like, it's very easy to look like if Trump had been assassinated, that's very much like JFK, where transformative president that's very different from the current era crop of presidents, like very kind of against the grain of what was the norm of the time. And then you have a coalition leader that is a major, perhaps the most important figure of the upcoming next generations, getting assassinated shortly after that in MLK, and Charlie Kirk kind of represents that too. Cause like Charlie Kirk, in a lot of ways, it's easy to, until this happened, it was very easy to underestimate just how much sway Charlie really had and how important he had become, and how deeply he had penetrated like normie culture at this time. Like, he was a major culture, and also like we can see that in the polling, how much the youth moved in polling towards Republicans in this last election was record numbers. And that is like largely due to Charlie Kirk at this time. And he's been this major coalition, like he's not just like an influencer, he's a coalition builder that is a high skilled operator behind the scenes and is like the network builder of all of these people. Like I've experienced firsthand, like I knew Charlie Kirk. I've dealt with him dozens of times in my life. And he was like a very, like I met him when he was like 20 years old, and I've seen him many times over the last decade at this time. And like I've watched him grow from being like the shy kid to being like kind of like this cool guy that's on camera and stuff like that, doing these debates at this time. Is like, you see how much, where he's gone at this time and how much he's developed this network over the place. Is like, and he was a major structure of the Trump and kind of the MAGA world's campaign network. It's not just like you're taking out you're not just taking out like an influencer that had a bunch of hype. It was also like you're taking down like an operation behind him. There's a lot of motive to take that down,
or co-opting it. Trying to take over or stem that tide that is going very, very much in a direction that potentially various parties did not want it to go.
Well, and there is the question that exists there too, because like we now know all of these donor issues he's been having essentially since Q4 of last year, which is after the election. But they've emerged even more so in the last 2-3 months, ever since the Turning Point AmFest conference that he had, where there's been donors pulling their funding from Turning Point because of Tucker Carlson, because of Dave Smith, because of things that Megyn Kelly said. And it appears that Charlie was not wanting to kowtow to that. And you have to wonder you have to wonder if those things are connected. These could be separate buckets. Like they likely are separate buckets, but they could be tied in some way. And it's like, we don't know really. Like, that's the hard thing.
The evidence around it is largely circumstantial, but there is circumstantial evidence around it.
I know that this is something that Charlie used to stress about, because I remember having a conversation with Charlie at one point where he would talk about, because I remember talking about him of like, how much his role has changed since he was kind of this guy that wore many hats and they only had like $1 million worth of funding, and now he's like got really big. And I remember him saying something along the lines of like, one of the hardest part of his job is balancing donor expectations and donor relations in tandem with the constituents that he's dealing with, which is the youth. Because like, these are very different demographics that have different beliefs.
Right.
And one of the hardest parts of his job was balancing those things. And you kind of wonder, and geopolitics is kind of one of those things that's a major deal. And geopolitics is where assassinations happen and things like that. And there's intelligence agencies, and you have to deal with the Israelis, you have to deal with the French, you have to deal with the British, you have to deal with the CIA, all these things. And you wonder if those things are connected, right? And especially with him having what appears to have been having donor strifes at this time period, with like all these new influx of people post-Trump assassination attempt. right? There's all of a sudden all these people like, now I'm now on your side, and they're like jumping in, and they were against you 5 minutes ago, but now they're there, and you kind of wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
And just how much donors, especially in the Israel issue, are very, very sensitive because of how many people are wealthy, who are Jewish, who are participating in politics specifically because of Israel, and that role that it plays within the Jewish identity is non-trivial. So money being contingent on that, or losing money, as Tucker Carlson's claimed, $2 million lost from a donor is one of Tucker Carlson's claims.
Because they don't want him to show up at their December conference or their winter
the next
conference, whatever it is.
That he was already invited Tucker Carlson to. And he refused that person and then said no. So that is at minimum a stressor on Charlie and part of the debate about what his legacy means that we'll get into in a minute. But at maximum, it's especially when you take into account the account of Harrison H. Smith, which we have a link to his tweet on this, which was probably the first real intimation of, someone who works for InfoWars, but is a journalist with a reputation on the line, who has his personal identity and his career on the integrity of his reporting, claiming, quote, "I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie Kirk thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them."
This tweet happened before the assassination too. This is actually like a month old, if I remember correctly.
Yes, this is long prior. I mean, long enough that it was not post-assassination.
Now, the unfortunate thing about this tweet is everybody dug this up, and then it was like 5 minutes into the assassination, everybody's like, Israel did it. And there's a lot of people really jumping onto there. It's like, it's hard to... It's always something to keep in the back of your mind, but like I wouldn't jump to conclusions too quickly, because like Charlie was very pro-Israel for much of his life. He had some problems here and there, and he made those are problems public. On his podcast, on Megyn Kelly's podcast, there's a lot of clips that exist there.
And some of them like less than a month prior or within a month prior to this event.
Well, and the Megyn Kelly thing was right after that Bill Ackman meeting at the Hamptons too.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's like this,
like the day after.
There's like this increasing amount of skepticism as Charlie is trying to keep Fuentes off his right flank at a minimum, right? So he's stuck between his donors' priorities and where he sees the demographic of which he delivered the most substantial shift in the modern era of voting patterns for young people voting for Republicans, specifically young men, moving to Nick Fuentes, making him more popular because Charlie isn't based enough on Israel and isn't contending with their arguments on this. And he can't even contend with the argument by hosting Dave Smith to debate another guy on the comment. He's getting a hard time for that, much less having
Who was
Tucker
at
Carlson.
the Bill Ackman meeting, that guy.
Yeah.
Same guy. Like, it's
Josh
worth
Hammer.
noting.
So this is interesting because I haven't really thought about it in these terms. You're feeling like Charlie's audience is getting pulled away by Nick Fuentes because of his views on Israel. Charlie feeling that attrition happening, or understanding just through all of his interactions with college campuses, young men and women, realizing the attitudes are shifting very dramatically with regard to Israel, due so directly to their handling of the war in Gaza, that he had to change his tune, or at very least try to, again, manage those relationships between donor and constituent, right?
And not to mention, Charlie's very close with the administration and has been part of the dialogues around Israel's influence in the administration, specifically when it comes to the war in Iran, which he opposed and lobbied the government not to get too heavily involved in.
And that's
according
publicly
to
known.
J.D. Vance.
That's publicly known.
Right. Yeah, J.D. Vance has claimed this. Keeping in mind, we had that one guy, Walz, who was fired by being
Mike Waltz.
Mike Waltz, Waltz, who was fired, aka moved to the UN out of his role as the deputy of the National Director of Intelligence. So there is a dialogue happening there about Israel's influence within the administration, and Charlie Kirk came very clearly on the America First side of that, because that's the only way to maintain his constituency. So he had to be on that. His job is to
I don't think that we should represent it as he is only concerned about keeping his audience, right? I think these are actually...
I'll say from personal experience with Charlie. I've had the Israel conversation with Charlie in the past, many years ago, before October 7th. So like this is, I don't know, 2018 maybe, something in that time frame, where we were having the conservative versus libertarian conversation there. He's very well read in libertarianism. Like he's a former kind of Rothbard accolade, actually. I remember being like, I just feel like Netanyahu's always trying to pull America into these wars and stuff like that. And I always felt like with Charlie, he would be like, he would physically agree with me. But he wouldn't verbally agree with me. And it's just like, and I always felt like, yes, he agrees with this. And Dave Smith on his podcast a day or two ago, he gave some tweets that or not tweets, DMs that he had with Charlie. And it was very much the same type of thing where Charlie went to him and he's just like, yo, I loved your debate with what's his name?
Josh Hammer.
No, not Josh Hammer. On Rogan.
Oh, Douglas Murray.
Douglas Murray.
Never been.
I 100% agree with you. I think that you would find that we have a lot more agreement than disagreement. You should come on the podcast and we can talk about this type of stuff. And like that's the vibe that Dave Smith had is the same vibe that I had with Charlie. And it's like I wasn't close with Charlie. I didn't have a lot of deep conversations with Charlie. I've just conversed with him here and there over the years. But like that was always the vibe, is that he has this kind of pragmatism when it comes to this type of stuff, but like he kind of saw it as like that's a generational shift, and I'm part of the generational shift here, and I got to be this coalition builder that gets and there's certain issues I can really speak my mind on. There's other things that I have to like pull away from, and I don't envy the position in that. Like it's easier as a commentator to be like, this is exactly what I believe, but when you're a coalition builder and stuff, you got to be much more tempered on things.
I think another part of this element that is important to understanding the motive is that people are relying on is how aggressive Netanyahu was in his, like, Charlie Kirk has died. He was a supporter of Israel, great supporter
This
of
is
the
a
Jewish
letter
people.
he gave me, and I will read one line from the letter.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
I would love to see that entire letter.
Yeah, that's
He
what
would
Candace
also
said.
would clear up a lot.
He was
if we
also
saw that
amongst
letter.
the very first people to announce that he had died.
He's made
on-
two
on
official
the internet.
statements. Also, since then on media.
Yeah.
Since then.
And it's specifically addressing the theory that Israel was involved. Understandable. He has to try to protect Israel and their reputation. But I mean, but I think what you're getting to, Joe, is that there's this sense that it's too immediate and too defensive and too trying to own the narrative of what his legacy means.
Yes.
And I mean, there's broad consensus that his legacy means in free and honest and open engagement with is the good thing that Americans do.
Yeah.
Right? Talking to your opponents and then debating them in good faith and then being a man of integrity while you do so. His role in like building the faith and being a member of the church and advocating Christendom in America is all agreed on. The thing that we can't agree on is, was he moving against Israel, and what does that mean?
Right.
And like, it makes sense just from a cons perspective that the Israeli first crowd would be like, nope, he was a diehard supporter of Israel, and that's when you look at Charlie Kirk, you should think that because he's more than a man now.
Yeah.
He's mimetic in a deeper way than he even was before.
And you know what doesn't help that narrative for people who are primed to say Israel did it because of the circumstances that exist? It doesn't help that 250 representatives from around the United States were in Israel for the 50 States One Israel thing, the event that they held, like the day of or the day after the assassination. It doesn't help that a bill was introduced into Congress that would ban
September 11th?
that would allow Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, to withhold or revoke Americans' passports for talking ill of Israel, for being critical of Israel over anti-Semitism concerns. Like, it doesn't help that Pam Bondi comes out and says, well, there's a difference between free speech and hate speech. Like, these are the things that Charlie would be so against, right? On free speech grounds.
I feel like Pam Bondi's
And
just
the
a
fact-
fuck up, though.
Well, I think that's a whole other episode.
We're going to get into Legally Blonde.
That's a whole other episode.
Kind of retarded.
And who knows about that. But honestly, like, those things happening immediately in the wake, almost as if to be, slipped by while everyone is reeling from this tragic loss. It's not, at very, very least, it's not good optics. And fortunately, the bill that was introduced, I believe that was very quickly scuttled away to be reintroduced in the future, I'm sure, because that's the trend of the times that we're living in, is further and further encroachment upon our rights, always. And I mean, I am concerned to some degree, even with the designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization, because yes, there violent people within that organization. Yes, is there general MO violence and chaos? Yes, but how slippery is that slope to saying, okay, well, Antifa holds the position of being free Palestine, therefore they're all anti-Semitic, therefore anybody who criticizes Israel is then potentially a member of Antifa, and then therefore potentially a terrorist, right? Like this is just a very, very slippery slope, in my opinion, and it's really concerning. And if there's anything that people should take away from this in terms of action, we need to be super freaking vigilant about our rights right now, that they're not eroded under the guise of trying to serve Charlie's legacy in some perverse way.
Yes, and that is exactly what the government does. It'll take 9/11 and it'll pass something that did not fix anything after 9/11.
Right.
They'll name it the Charlie Kirk Act.
Yes,
Exactly.
Something
right.
something terrible.
It'll
that
tug
he
at
would
your
never
heartstrings, and
Yeah.
it'll take away your rights. while
Something
you're
that
not looking.
crushes his actual legacy,
Exactly.
which is like free and open dialogue and stuff like that.
And we've already talked about Gideon, the new AI surveillance tool that was rolled out and talked about on the news the day after the Minneapolis school shooting. We've got
Israeli
Palantir.
technology, by the way.
Zola's algorithm.
Yeah, that's Israeli
from the
technology.
Winter
It's just
Soldier.
worth mentioning that,
Right.
Because we're on that topic.
Right.
That's a good analogy. We should do a monologue at that some point.
What, Zola's algorithm?
Yeah. From Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier. It's the exact thing that Joe's talking
It's
about.
been so
Yeah.
long, I don't remember it.
Yeah. It's like they get the old Nazi scientists and they like have them design an algorithm to like plot out. In the Winter Soldier, the Hydra takes over the U.S. government by the security state through the CIA, and then becomes like the dominant power. And they build this like super death machine that flies over and it can just take out people because it knows everyone's
Yeah, but
social
the
media
algorithm
profiles.
basically identifies anyone who would be an enemy to the state
Yes.
before they've actually done anything, based on like voting records, bank records,
And that's exactly where we're getting in. It's
Minority
been talked
Report
about
type of stuff.
openly.
Yeah.
It's been talked
Yeah.
about openly. This whole predictive model of criminal justice, of taking people out or doing whatever, predicting when people are going to commit crimes. Like that is exactly where we're going with the advent of technology as it relates to criminal justice, and that is genuinely terrifying. to me.
One additional thing, that because it does relate to surveillance, that is relevant to the alternative theory, or at least the open source intelligence gathering operation that's happening on the internet, is a plane. It's an airplane called an Axel 10.
That's its call sign.
Yeah, Axel 10. This private airplane that under a government program called Project Hades could be, although I haven't seen that it actually confirmed that it's this, because of course the government won't tell you which private airplanes are indeed spy planes and which ones are that. But this airplane pattern is very interesting because it flies to the area, circles, flies to Kalispell, Montana, then flies back just in time for the shooting, and then takes off again.
Yeah. And just to add a little bit more color to that, takes off from, I think, El Paso, I want to say, or somewhere in the southwest U.S. Climbs to cruising altitude. Now, mind you, this is a private aircraft. It looks like a private jet. I believe it's an Embraer, but I don't recall the model. It climbs to cruising altitude, then requests clearance from the Provo airport to descend well below the altitude that a allegedly passenger plane should descend to, something like 500 feet above ground level. We're talking, I think, like 5,500 feet above sea level. Circles basically around UVU, essentially, around the area, and then climbs again, completes its flight to Kalispell. Does the same exact thing on the way back, only goes even lower and even slower. We're talking like just barely above stall speed, does a loop around the Provo area where UVU is, and continues on. And on its return trip, it was like within 15 to 20 minutes of the shot being fired that killed Charlie Kirk.
Interesting. I've seen people mention the private plane, but I've never
Well, there's two private plane stories.
Yeah, I've never
So there's that one.
tracked it.
Was it
Which
a
is interesting.
skyhook thing?
What's that?
Have you ever? All right, here's
Another movie reference, Batman.
Yes, I'm just referencing superhero movies, but it's like
Good, because that's predictive program. That's pre-programming.
Absolutely.
We got to get back on the pre-programming train.
So anyone who's seen The Dark Knight, the Christian Bale one, he goes to Shanghai and he does a skyhook. He releases this balloon and it's a low-flying plane, and it grabs him and it takes him back up to the plane without the plane landing. So Joe's saying the plane went even lower and slower.
Yeah.
So
Could
is
be
it?
that.
So the
the getaway vehicle.
I never thought of it being the getaway vehicle.
the real assassin used a balloon to ascend to the private jet.
Yes, this is what do we call it?
Dubious speculation.
We're getting crazy in here.
So what we do know is that private planes have been, that there's this program by the U.S. Army to equip things that look like private planes for intelligence gathering operations using signals intelligence. So what that could be, no one knows. But Project Hades is real, right? You can find it on armytechnology.com.
And the name's really fucked up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
You don't?
That's worth note. Yeah, that is interesting in itself.
Well,
is the naming
it's an
convention.
acronym for something.
Of course
I got
it is.
here.
It's the military or the...
Yeah, right.
But also Hades, the god of death.
Yeah.
The god of hell.
Oh, that's pretty
It's the
interesting.
High Accuracy Detection and Exploitation System.
Doesn't honestly sound any better.
It seems like a torturous, like what? Okay. So the other private plane story is one that's been largely debunked at this point. So what happened is right afterwards, a private plane leaves. It's N88KG is the
tail number.
The tail number. It deports right at 15 minutes after the shooting site, around 1:11 p.m. Local time, about an hour after the incident.
It departed. It's about a 12-minute drive from UV.
Yes.
From where the airport from which it took off.
Yeah.
Flew directly south to. Well, they're not exactly sure where it landed because it actually illegally turned off its ADS-B transponder, which is the system with which
it doesn't appear that that's actually true.
Is that right?
Yeah. So the updates from that, and I wasn't aware of this until I did some research right before the show. So what happened was it disappears at 1:43 p.m. near Arizona, and then reappears at 2:30 when it departs Page Municipal Airport for its return to Provo. The owner of the plane, Derek Maxfield, who's the CEO of Comingo, Komigo, he addressed it on social media. He clarified that the flight was routine, pre-scheduled trip from Provo to Page, Arizona, carrying 2 pilots and 2 passengers on an Alpine flight, and then 7 passengers aboard a trip for a return back to Provo, Utah. So there was like a tangible explanation. There's also been a trend in this area of signal disruptions,
right,
for all kinds of reasons. But that this regularly does these trips is probably part of that rental program for private airplanes we've covered before.
Yeah, many wealthy individuals own planes and will lease them when they're not using them.
Yeah. So and there's been a couple different experts to testify on this about how normal this is. That it's common in this area.
Right.
So that was an early speculative place. And that's okay. And one of the things I want to emphasize is that's a good thing. We chased a lead and it didn't go anywhere. We've eliminated a possibility. Yep. Skyhook still could be a possibility though. We don't know.
We still don't know what happened.
Based on a real life thing.
We still don't know what happened to that plane when it went off ADS-B.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
True.
There's still a black hole in our knowledge of what happened to this plane.
Much like the Malaysian flight 3, whatever. The black hole.
Oh,
remember? Sorry, you just gave me like a flashback of Don Levin talking about like this Malaysian flight. Maybe a black hole took it. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And then you see the video of it and you're like, oh my God, he's right.
Someone contact the orb guy. So, okay. I think that it pretty much exhausts the internet. Speculation and investigation.
I'm sure that's not true. There is so much. I swear I've made a bookmarks folder on X for all of the things that I've discovered or come across. No research into many of them, or very little, right? But there's just so much. I'm sure by the time this episode airs, there's going to be new stuff. If you think we missed anything, definitely leave it in the comments.
Definitely.
If you have a lead and you want us to follow it, let us know, and we will look into it.
Also, if you want to shape the show, go on to our Discord where we're regularly talking about the news stories of the day. I regularly use resources that people post there. It's very helpful for us as amateur podcasters. And then additionally that, it's a great venting place where there's a lot of other people who are exactly in the same boat as you trying to contend with reality and deal with stuff by fighting the media misdirection.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think the best thing to come from Charlie's passing is the revival that seems to be taking place and the unity that seems to be taking place, and peacefully so, I might add. Unlike other prior, very highly publicized and politicized events such as, George Floyd's death, for example, I've been really, honestly, very encouraged by the response from the right and not lashing out in a way that exacerbates the political violence problem that we are currently facing.
No cities were burned. It's kind of interesting.
No cities were burned. I mean, a lot of prayer vigils were held, and honestly, some
Fire! Fire! Fire!
of those events It's really hard to continue being serious after you play Beavis and Butthead.
That's not my role.
Thank you for keeping it.
We bring in
quiet.
Bennett to bring levity in times of tragedy.
This is true. This is true.
The comedic relief.
Thank you, buddy.
Yes, thank you. Thank
you're,
you, Ben.
you're right, Joe, and I've seen this. I've seen similar things, right? People coming to faith and coming to a greater amount of reflection on their life and what it means, based upon this.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there have been, I wouldn't say isolated, but I would say much smaller in number of really hateful things that have been said, and those people are, I think, rightfully.
I don't know if I would say it's a small number, man.
Well, I would say smaller than the number of people who are really taking this in a positive direction.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's not an insignificant amount, and it's.
I've seen hundreds of videos of people like cheering this thing on, which is crazy.
And like on what Joe's point is here is like if you have hundreds of thousands of people on their own lives making changes to make things better, as opposed to some shitty people on TikTok who go viral, and don't get me wrong, they got hundreds of thousands of likes, but that is like the best example of where meeting tragedy with love and meeting it with like a commitment to do better, as opposed to with lashing out in anger, is there's wisdom in that,
For
right?
sure.
And there's a way to overcome these things that isn't logical from the strictly I'm under threat response.
Right.
And that's like the most noble and ambitious and like self-giving way to go to respond. But it's real. And the responding outrage to the outrage mongers in this space has also been real. And I've seen that too. And it's totally understandable.
Oh, for
right?
sure. For sure. Well, and I think, and this is a bit of a hot button issue on the internet right now. Should we celebrate people who said hateful things in light of Charlie Kirk's death, being fired from their jobs or being doxxed on the internet or whatever? You know, and you know, maybe I'll pass it around. How do you guys look at that?
I will say I think the attempt to equivocate people being exposed for celebrating the death of somebody versus like the cancel culture that we had seen in the past is ridiculous.
Oh, for sure.
I don't find it to be the same thing really at all. In the past, we had people drumming up tweets from people in like when they were in high school, when they were, when like just like jokes that were said, like the cancel culture was very different. This is like Jobs being like, I don't want somebody that's like celebrating the death of somebody that I don't really see as being actually this hate monger, you know, versus like intelligence operated sponsored cancellation campaigns.
Right.
Like those are two very different things.
I see exactly what you're saying. It's one thing for a person's actions or words in response to Charlie Kirk's death be communicated to the world, including their employer or their school or whomever, and then that entity taking action based on their own moral compass, which in many of these cases is right in my view to say I can't have somebody who treats this situation this way in my organization and they let them go or whatever. I think that's totally different. Like you're saying,
like actually like the free market at work.
Well, it is. It's totally different from that, from saying there's this list of people with troublesome opinions posting on Twitter and we're going to send that up the chain.
And then they get banned from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Airbnb, Uber. Their bank is frozen. Like that's a very different story.
It's a very
and I'm actually
thing.
like very.
Do you have some experience with that?
A little bit. I've had a little bit of that experience. Yeah. Like that's one of those things where like I'm watching people trying to equivocate those two things, and there's like, no, those are not the same thing.
They're not the same
at all.
Let me give a more philosophical approach to the answer, because at least part of the cancel culture pushback criticism was that we want a free speech culture.
Yes.
Right? That encourages the participation of people within it. And the thing about the cancel culture of that era was it was something like, that this was something that was outside the bounds of the First Amendment discourse that represses participation in the civil order of speech.
Yes.
Right? Like that's what their effort was. It was outside that bounds from the inside in. And what I see with this is a qualitative difference in that this is the culture itself, the free speech culture saying, no, participation is really important. And what you're doing by celebrating the death of somebody is going to end our free speech. Because what it begs the question is, if I stand up and speak and I'm killed for that, will I be mocked for it? And we can't have that either, right? And like that disincentive to participation is being defended by people actually coming out and saying, you have a right to say that. I have a right to tell your employer that you said that.
Yeah.
And that's a different sort of qualitative thing than you said a joke 10 years ago, and now I'm going to use that in this crazy BLM moment to get you fired from your job because I don't want you speaking or even making jokes.
Right.
It's not the government and the intelligence services going to a bunch of entities to be like, the algorithms say that you need to delete this 100,000 people from your platform. Like, it's not the same thing at all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the analogous to that one's closer to the FCC and Trump, which we'll get into in a second. But I just want to mention is like when it was a truly authentic mob action, right, by groups of progressives, that was probably sometimes a real thing and not always an intelligence-backed operation. To the degree that happened in certain circumstances, the pushback from that was that itself was destructive of free discourse. And I see as what's happening now is also something that is enforcing free discourse, because we can't have people operate that way in a civil society.
Right.
It is uncivilized to do that. And I actually, in the last one, and I did a monologue, I found a poll that kind of measured this about how acceptable it is. And I do think like the righteous mind-like angle here, where sanctity of life is so much stronger on the right. The sanctity of what corrupts is so much stronger, sensitive in like the moral intuitions, that the liberals just don't have that to the same degree. It's much easier for them to do that. So when you ask them, is it okay to celebrate someone's death of a political opponent after they die? They say in overwhelming numbers, like 70%, it was a crazy amount, said, yeah, of course it is. Right? Yeah. Because they just don't have that same moral matrix. You need other people to say, no, you got to it in order to have this. Otherwise, the mutual contract that is civil society breaks down. Because at that point, there has to be some bound of sanctity. And one of it has to be, you can't celebrate the life or the death of somebody when they're assassinated for speaking their mind.
Yeah. That's
my case.
I agree with that. I agree with that case.
Yeah. So let's get into the FCC thing. So the other side of that is the push into, did Donald Trump use the government to shut down Jimmy Kimmel? It is false. I found that this actually came out right beforehand. It's actually the very last link there is the Wall Street Journal put it on its out. And at the end of the day, it was viewer disgust and advertiser revolt that drove the decision making. It was not Jimmy Kimmel's.
We've been drinking whiskey, guys.
Comment. So this is what happened. So Kimmel, in a broadcast, he clearly doesn't count. He can't even read. In a broadcast, he makes
Jimmy Carlson. He said a thing.
He makes a joke.
I'm kind of retarded.
It's not a joke.
Off the rails, guys. All right, David.
Did you guys watch the clip?
No. You know what? Let's play the clip.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of.
Yeah. Wait, can I go real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Yeah, you can, Bennett.
Don't take away my free speech.
We missed you, Bennett.
So, a couple points. I think the second part of it was funny. If I'm being honest,
I agree.
like the
fourth stage of grief.
The Trump criticism of like how he answered that question was Trump was a little crazy in that. Like that was a weird response. However, what he's doing in the beginning is exactly what he's accusing the right of doing by saying the right's trying to like claim this wasn't them which is exactly what he's doing in that moment.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a common leftist tactic, as we've talked about many times in this show, projecting onto your opponent what you yourself are doing.
Mm-hmm. And then this is really what the FCC threat wasn't about the part with Trump. It was the part where he claims the right is trying to claim that this person isn't, as if making the factual claim, as if trying to say that the factual claim is that he's clearly not, when that's at this time when this aired was well known not to be true. But the media is in such denial about this, about how bad it looks for them. They're doing everything they can to prevent the actual idea formation of understanding to form amongst the left and amongst everyday people who watch the Jimmy Kimmel show, whoever does that.
Well, not very many people, according to the ratings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it did suck. Check out the ratings. I have a ratings link on there. I mean, was he fired for this? No, he wasn't fired because the FCC told him to fire. That's none of the evidence. The Wall Street Journal makes that absolutely clear. It had to do with affiliates saying, that was disgusting. How dare you? We're not going to. We don't want to air Jimmy Kimmel anymore. And additionally, that the show's rankings have been just declining, just plummeting forever. And I have a graph of it on that second to last link there, Kyle. No, second to last link in the notes. Yeah.
And I have to imagine, like, because this is just a common tactic that exists, is like you have this person that's been around forever and they have this like way crazy contract, and then corporations are just looking for that opportune time to be like, let's dump this guy. Because like the ratings are tanking, we're paying him way too much. Time to bring in new talent. And I have to imagine that's probably actually what was happening behind the scenes.
Yes. And Stephen Colbert was the same story. I mean, they were losing money. It didn't make any sense. I mean, cable news is just getting creamed right now. Or cable television, even the late night shows. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we see that right now, which is just also another interesting phenomenon. You have all these people like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers,
Colbert,
Colbert, that other guy who I can't remember his name, which is kind of what.
Well, I mean, clearly
Seth Gordon, is that what his name is?
Corbyn.
Corbyn.
I think he left.
Yeah,
isn't he the Irish guy?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he finished a couple years ago.
My understanding is Greg Gutfeld is like surpassing them all right now over on Fox News as kind of being the late night comedy guy now. And Greg Gutfeld's like just completely trouncing all of them. Now, I guess there's probably a pattern there that exists where like they're all sharing the same audience. So there's probably like a downgrade in how much the viewership exists. Well, there's just like this other guy that's like a completely different thing. But
that could be they're all kind of cannibalizing the mainstream left viewership versus there's one late night conservative show. Yeah,
on cable.
I'm just thinking about the demographics. Like the liberals are generally younger, so they're not watching cable anymore. Whereas Fox News is the boomer generation, and that's clearly what's watching cable still and going to Fox. So like they're not watching this. So
well, and Greg has like I think a lot of them actually have a good YouTube presence though. But like I'll tune into like Greg's YouTube every now and then if there's like a good guest that exists there too.
Okay, but that's just helping his cause because then he gets the boomers and the younger generation too.
So we have a great opportunity here for policy reform. And that is that the left currently believes that the Trump administration used the FCC to get Jimmy Kimmel fired because the FCC manages the licensure for broadcasters. Now, there is no licensure for newspapers, but there is one for broadcasters. Do you know why?
Why?
Because of broadcast signal property rights. And broadcast signals are certain sets of bands that people purchased property rights to a long time ago. Much like taxi medallions, it's an artificially created thing that the government did in order to make sure that there wasn't overlap in areas. Even though there's a clear market reason not to do it, before the market didn't even arrive, the government says, nope, we're going to do this, and they started regulating it immediately. And then it basically never comes up for renewal. They just kind of get it forever, which is a terrible structure for a public property, is that's how they're trying to regulate it. So, and then additionally, nobody watches cable or like broadcast news anymore. I mean, it happens a little bit on the local level, but it's largely unneeded for these large nationals to have these bandwidths. So the conservatives have been talking about since the 1980s about how unnecessary and ridiculous this whole program is. The left doesn't like it anymore because like Trump's threatening licensure removal in order to get this done. Republicans have always said this is a thing. Let's abolish FCC licensure for the broadcast spectrum.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think we should start a an educational campaign, maybe something like decentralized broadcast reform or something like that, and we'll start putting out media about how that's an antiquated system and it should go away.
Yes, it should. And it could be in order to protect free speech, because you know what, the left is right. He could have done that. He didn't do that. There's no evidence of that, but he could have. So therefore, let's get rid of it.
I agree with that.
Eminem's
It's kind of like the FCC won't let me be.
Way to go, Kyle.
We'll get an endorsement from Eminem. It'll be awesome.
Well, actually, speaking of Eminem, this is random thought. Eminem teamed up with Kid Rock to do a big charity thing to promote free speech on college campuses in the honor of Charlie Kirk.
Wow.
To have
Really?
this right wing and left wing
guess.
thing to come together. I saw that there was a bunch of that happened there, right? Yeah, it is one of those things where I'm completely comfortable. Let's abuse the system to attack our enemies and then make them abolish the system. Let's do it. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
They've been abusing it for so long. Let's abuse it and make them abolish it.
Yeah.
There
is a sense in which that is the current dynamic amongst the logic of the right?
Yeah.
The muscular right that really wants to play by the same rules that they've been subjected to. It's understandable where that's where people are arriving. I think the best thing we can do is have Maxim do that and then pivot to that. I would just prefer just to go straight for it and just say, no, let's just abolish it.
Well,
Let's just get it done.
it showcases this thing of no more, no
Ezra Klein.
more whiskey, Joe. No more.
It's got to drive home, man.
Kyle, I like it when you have a couple drinks.
I have gone sober for most of this year, so I haven't had a drink in months, and I'm feeling it.
Yes,
I'm feeling it.
Danger zone.
Danger zone. But there you go. Ezra Klein, on an interview with the New York Times today, said, you know what? I think we kind of got illiberal on free speech.
Really?
Do you think
Ezra Klein?
Really?
Ezra freaking Klein.
That happened?
That happened.
No way. I can't believe it.
It's happening, guys. The happening is happening. Everyone's for free speech now. If you're a leftist,
Bennett,
now that they're out of power,
pull up the Ron Paul "It's Happening" meme. That's amazing. It's not amazing to me. I'm actually completely not shocked by that. As soon as they're out of power, I mean, they're for whatever the right is against, right? So if it's going against them, they're going to be for it. If it's free speech in opposition to this tyrannical Donald Trump character, of course they're going to be for it.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is, because I feel like we're gonna have to be very careful for when the Democrats get a president in 2050. I am, because I there's this thing right now where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I feel like JD Vance is going to be the next president in the aftermath of all of this stuff. It's just because the left, we thought in recent years the left was declining so much right now, but in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination and just everything that's been happening right now, I don't see how the left can continue to win after this. What are they going to have? Is AOC come in after this? I feel like it's going to be JD Vance 100%.
I truly think they're going to try with Newsom, which seems crazy.
The amount of people that are moderate to left wing, to moderate left, they're not they're kind of apolitical, moderate left wing, socially type of people that I've seen just be I'm going to church now because of Charlie Kirk.
Totally.
Or I feel like I had a completely skewed view of everything and all of a sudden Charlie Kirk videos are starting to pop up on my YouTube feed and I'm watching these things and I just feel like I've been lied to all the time. I've seen so many people that are like that right now, where it's just the right-wing cultural moment right now. It feels so much like MLK getting assassinated. I feel like this is very equivalent to the MLK assassination with Charlie Kirk. It's just it's almost like, oh no, there's this right-wing resurgence that's happening right now where we're watching this massive transformative era. In a lot of ways, it's what Charlie Kirk would have wanted, which is interesting in itself.
Absolutely. No, I think you're very right. I don't think that any person on the middle left that might still be left can look at the response of their own party, people within their own party, objectively as a human, right, with any sort of moral compass, and say, this is good. Mm-hmm. This is just innately good. It's not. It's hateful and terrible. And then I think seeing the contrast then too of the right's response to this versus their left comrades, is even more evidence of like, wow, there really is a divide here right now. And it's not just political divide, it's a spiritual divide. And what side of that do you want to be on? And a lot of people are asking themselves that question.
And it seems like the only debate that's mattered in the last year or so, pretty much maybe since the Trump assassination attempt, the only thing that's mattered is right versus right debate on like what is right wing.
Yes.
Like the left wing just seems so completely out of the culture now, which is crazy to think about because we had like decades of left wing culture up to this point where like the left just doesn't matter. Everybody's kind of done with the nonsense. They're done like, oh, okay, like we don't want another BLM riot. We don't want another trans shooter. We don't want another, like, stop force feeding us all these narratives. We're done with ESGs. We're done with all this stuff that like had a complete capture over the system from like an investment level, from an academic level, from all of these different things.
Cultural storytelling.
Like all of that stuff's done. Like the myth making that they had is done. We're done with those myths. And we're in a new myth creation process. And myth creation process could last several decades at this point where like we'll probably have Democrat leaders and stuff like that. Like they'll have to reform. I think Gavin Newsom, actually, to your point, Bennett, you mentioned Gavin, like he's trying to kind of like,
he's trying to do the podcast.
He's doing podcasts. He's trying to ease it. He interviewed Charlie Kirk.
He did.
I actually recommend that video. It's actually kind of interesting.
I forgot about that.
You know, like he's trying to kind of like moderate the left a little bit, but like he still has these things that I think a lot of normal people are like, I'm done with that, man.
Well, so is Ezra Klein.
This horrible record.
What's his
abundance.
thing? Yeah, the abundance narrative.
Yeah, right. So he stole abundance from the libertarians, and he's like, now we're for supply or something. You know, but I mean, it's interesting watching.
Idiot! Oh, what a loser!
It's interesting to watch them be like, oh yeah, we're gonna make lots of things in America, but we're not gonna change any institutions. It's like okay, yeah, right, buddy.
But like what Americans want are institutional reform right now.
Yes, that's what they're not grasping. But they do want the result of that. What they want is like, hey, we should be able to build a light rail train and it not go 100 times over budget.
Yeah.
Completely reasonable. And like the fact that is like an edgy thing to say in the progressive left right now is amazing. Right. It's an opportunity to actually get a lot of those things. When I look at that, like, is it acceptable to celebrate someone's death and how much more the left suggests that it's okay? There's still more than any margin of any election, like that 20-30% of leftists who are like, of course not. If you lose all those people, that's devastating to your brand. Devastating.
Sure.
Electorally devastating. So how long they lose, how long the Charlie Kirk movement lasts, I don't know. But, you know, it is a moment where you see a lot of people kind of putting things aside for a minute and be like, nope, we're one group again because this threat from the outside is so substantial.
Yeah. I am curious to see the future of the post-Charlie Kirk movement, especially like the future of Turning Point. Because Turning Point, like, I want to stress, Turning Point is maybe one of the most important organizations in Republican politics. Just like when we're talking about the future of it, and which is crazy for me to think, because like I remember meeting Charlie when he was like in early fundraising phases in the early years of Turning Point, and just seeing what has grown into being at this point. And it's just like, it is crazy how much of a institution Turning Point is and how much it matters, which is one of those things where, you know, with these donor things, you kind of have to start to speculate of some of the drama that happened there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like I'll be curious to see the aftermath of all of this. Like my understanding is that Erica, his wife, is now taking over as the CEO with a unanimous decision from the board. So hopefully she continues kind of Charlie's legacy, but it's going to be hard to fill his shoes there. Mm-hmm. But like, it's very important to kind of.
What do you mean? Ben Shapiro's already stepped up. He's already said, I will pick up the, what did he say? The bloody mic where Charlie Kirk dropped it or something like that. It was pretty gross.
That ain't it, bro. That's not where the youth are going. I just don't think it. I don't think it's going to work. But I mean, I think there's going to be a scramble for the voice of the youth. I think that's very much real. Some of it being totally natural, some of it being really jaded and like strategic and gross. But some of it being just people just trying to say like, hey, I really want to pick up where Charlie left off because I'm inspired by this moment. God knows I was. At the moment when it happened, guys, I spoke in front of dozens and dozens of crowds with no security whatsoever. I can't imagine. Right. And so my first moment was absolute shock and fear. And then it's no, fuck you. I will not. Mm-hmm. I will not let this change me. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think I'm not the only person who felt that. I imagine a lot of people did.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the number of testimonies I read on X from random people who were like, my high school boys wanted to wear like suits and ties to school today for Charlie. It was like overwhelming, like the number of personal stories that people said, like the impact that Charlie had on the next generation was unbeknownst to me prior to this. I was not intimately aware of Charlie's work. Of course, I've seen his clips and I know who he is and I know Turning Point, but I wasn't aware of like the depth and breadth of the adoration that this generation of particularly young men had for him. And I think the resolve that they're going to carry from this, if it can endure, will be generational in nature. And I mean, will be like orders and orders of magnitude larger than the impact that Charlie himself could have had.
It'll be MLK-like in a lot of ways, where it's just like,
It'll be a symbol.
I think Charlie's going to be a name that is recognized for many decades to come in the aftermath. And it's nice because, like, unlike MLK, we actually have a ton of video footage of Charlie. Debates on campuses, his own podcast, all this stuff. You see his growth. Like, it's just, I remember, I remember the early days of Charlie. He was like a very shy guy, actually, and seeing how much he's turned into like this, like, I don't know. He's just
icon.
He's become much more of like a man, and he's like comfortable in his own shoes. I remember the first time I met Charlie was in this like small group setting, and he was like, he and like the dinner was like for Charlie because he was like the star of the dinner, and I remember I was the guy sitting next to him. He wouldn't address the group on anything at all, and he would just talk to the people that are next to him. And like how much he's changed since then is like he's just become this like superstar in a lot of ways, to the point where I'm actually like disappointed that South Park dropped their episode with Charlie. Like I think they removed it from a bunch of platforms. I think it's still on some platforms, but like Charlie himself, he had like a whole hour podcast just going through the South Park episode and just laughing and agreeing with how much they got his mannerisms and how artistically correct it was. And
the master debater.
Yeah, the master debater. They had the Charlie Kirk Award on it and stuff like that, where you're just like, I'm kind of disappointed that South Park was pressured to remove that in the moment, because like Charlie himself really liked that, and he looked at it in a way where it's just like, man, it's so awesome to see what Turning Point's become and what our like efforts have become. It's just like that there's like comedians, talking about it. It's
I feel like for South Park, that's a little disappointing, honestly.
But I mean, it's an act of sympathy for people who are overreacting at the time. I'm sure they come back, they put it back up. I'm sure that they have the Cartman as Charlie Kirk thing come back around again eventually. But you can understand the corporate side of that, where they're just like, hey, we don't know how people are going to react. We should be chill. Because, a man did lose his life, and I can understand that. But that said, I had the same reaction.
Mom, I got a master debate against these college girls.
Yeah, right.
It's such a funny
and watching
thing.
Charlie laugh at that was super funny, right? Because he's such a relatively straight-laced guy. Otherwise, it was really
well, it's also just like his Jubilee last night, his Jubilee video that he did where he's like debating, like, because like Jubilee does those things where it's like this person debates 20 people that are like against them type of thing. Yeah. His Jubilee video had 36 million views. It popped up on my YouTube feed, and I hadn't watched it before, and I went in and tuned in and just like skimmed through it, and it's like, geez, 36 million views. You're just like, I can't. I'm thinking about to the time where I met him back in 2015 as being the shy kid to what he is now. Yeah. And you're just like, geez, Charlie has grown something into like something big. Well, it's crazy.
And then like you said, he compared him to various different figures who've been assassinated in the past. And maybe we'll kind of cap on this, as far as what it means for the future. I think he becomes a symbol, right? Yes. A symbol much larger than he was in life. He was huge in life, but even more so. And I don't think the internet is going to let anyone forget this anytime soon. And nor will Turning Point, as they shouldn't, to hopefully will be marshaled in a direction that makes the world a better place. And I think that's what he would have wanted.
And I recommend, if you haven't I actually recommend watching some of these vigils that have been happening, especially the one in like DC or the one that's upcoming in Glendale, Arizona, which will be the big one. Like that's the one that Trump's giving the Medal of Freedom to Charlie and his family. I recommend watching the DC one, where you had people like Mike Johnson and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK come up. Like watching Tulsi tear up to Charlie was like a very powerful moment. Watching that happen, of like these massive figures, like they're important figures of the current administration, especially somebody like Tulsi, who's like a former Democrat who came over, and like Tulsi and like Charlie was a major figure in getting people like Tulsi and RFK into the coalition, maybe the most important person in that of like, and watching them give speeches about Charlie in the time, it's just like, it's a very powerful thing to watch, especially as we're watching this transformative era occur right now. And just like watching these Democrats flip over to the Republicans and kind of this new Republican Party that's forming. It's just like, we're in this like historical moment right now that is like, you know, take note of that, treasure that moment that we're in right now. Like, kind of meditate on that. It's just a very interesting time for us to be alive and be witnessing this in this time period, especially for a lot of people that are in politics. Like Charlie knew everybody. Like if you kind of were in politics, you probably met Charlie at some point.
Yeah.
Like there's
in right-wing politics,
especially in right-wing
absolutely.
politics,
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
probably met Charlie at some point. So like, there's a lot of people that are thinking about this. It's like, man, I remember that kid. Like there's like a lot of that stuff where you're just like, I don't know. It's a weird moment to be here doing this thing.
It for sure is. Well, we appreciate you for watching, and thanks for sticking with us. I know this was probably a long one, but I think we did it all justice. Hopefully you agree. If you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments, and join us in the Discord for more conversation. For David Rand, for Kyle Mack, and for Bennett on the buttons.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I'm Joe Sheehan. This is Human Reaction. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Human Reaction. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and give us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you want to become a member and support the show financially, check out humanreactionpod.com.